Run, run, river, carry me home to the ocean. The river and the road take me home to the ocean. The friends in my life like stars in the sky, leave the lights on.
Join us this week as a sailor's worst nightmare comes true. So right now we are in a gated community. We just visited a billionaire's house. We won't tell you whose for his own privacy, but this lagoon is a gated lagoon that you can only get into if you know somebody or sponsored. So. So we are on a anchorage in Nassau, actually in Lyford Cay, and it's a horrible anchorage right at the moment. The north winds are just beating us up really on the windward side of the island at the moment, and it's just it was not fun, and that you think about sailing a lot, and a lot of great times, of course, but there's some stressful times too. Sometimes it makes me wonder if we're ready for this, if I'm ready for this. I think there's some truth to just that, and everybody is just worrying if you're going to like it, worrying if you're going to keep your family safe. And sailing really is no different than life. There are some days and even weeks, maybe even months, where it's not so much fun. And then it's followed by amazing days like today, where we went to the water park. One of the great things about sailing is the people you get to meet, like Vaughn here from Lyford Cay Club, and getting to have dinners on the beach and watching amazing sunsets. While we loved to paddleboard, I think the dogs loved it even more. It was impossible to get the boards out without the dogs insisting to get on. It was hard to imagine this was now our new lifestyle and not a vacation, because it certainly felt like it. There were some just awesome sights to see at Wardwick Cay, like Boo Hill, and actually do some sailing as well. Besides the actual sailing part, a lot of people have asked us what we actually do on the boat when we're sailing. Sometimes it's jumping up and down on the boat in the front, laying around like the dogs are doing, reading a book like Roy's doing, or checking up with family and friends when we have a signal. There's this iconic place across from Georgetown called Chat and Chill. It was one of the first places where we were pinching ourselves thinking, could this really be our lifestyle? It was less than 24 hours from this moment where disaster would strike. Hey everybody, it's January 30th of 2023, and we thought the best way to introduce these next videos and pictures was really to do this video, to give really more context and try to answer some unanswered questions that you've had, that we've been asked a ton of times. And so the first question I get, and really the main few questions we get, are, would we buy a Fountain Pajot boat again? And we absolutely would. We loved the boat, loved everything about the boat. We just thought it was a perfect build for us. It felt a little small, honestly, but I think that was because we had the two dogs on board and 4 people. I think we would have probably gotten used to it, though a little bit bigger boat would have been ideal, but love the Fountain Pajot. Loved our broker. James and Clayton were amazing, amazing sales guys that felt like they really understood our needs and were patient as a new boat owner and new to buying a new boat as well. And so, yeah, they were fantastic. The boat broker themselves, which was ACY, are amazing people. They're just some very, very kind-hearted people there, from Ken to Jevin to again Clayton and James and Christian and others that I'm Lauren, others that I know I'm forgetting, but just really solid people. We get a question like, how did the fire start? And I can speculate, but I'm not allowed to. So I have been advised that I cannot talk about it. So I'll just leave it at that. I wish I could say more. You're going to see some pictures that show a lot of what happened. We went grocery shopping because we were in Georgetown, Bahamas, and heading to the Dominican Republic. So Georgetown was really our last stop before, in terms of fueling and provisioning, before we got to the Dominican Republic. And so we did some huge grocery shopping, so much so that our dinghy was full, and so it was just Beth and I that made a trip back, while our friend Roy and Landon, our daughter, stayed behind. We got to the boat. We heard a alarm going off, and I got on the boat. I honestly, I thought it was probably carbon monoxide. It just was the first thing that came to my mind. And I looked inside the doors and I couldn't see anything because it was full of smoke. And so we got the door open. Smoke just billowed out, just toxic, nasty. It was just, yeah, super toxic smoke. We called for the dogs and they didn't come. I did a quick assessment of the area and to assess risk, and at that point didn't see any fire, didn't see any risk, and so we went inside and looked for the dogs. We found them in the forward port cabin with their heads buried in an air vent. We got one out, and went back and got the other. We just consuming a lot of smoke ourselves. Beth called for help. A dozen sailors came pretty quickly and were helping. It was just an amazing. You hear a lot about the sailor community, but it was just amazing. The outpouring of love and help, and I'm sure we'll get into that at some point. But I was doing CPR on the dogs for what seemed forever, and just realized that they were gone. The likelihood is they died from oxygen deprivation, not smoke inhalation, because the fire was really extinguished by the time we got there, and that was due to the boat being shut up and the fire that was there starved out the oxygen. Because they were down in the forward port cabin, they got away from the smoke, but they couldn't get away from, obviously, the oxygen deprivation. We take some comfort in knowing that they probably died from that, not smoke inhalation, because it's a far less painful death to go through. From there, because I took on a ton of smoke, a lot of people were insisting for me to go to the hospital, and so Beth and I did go. Got some oxygen. They really couldn't do much for us, honestly, and there was some staffing issues and other things that they just weren't able to do a lot. And so we were checking ourselves out when we got my daughter texted me and said, she being the boat is back on fire, and that she's basically gone at this point. And so we got outside the hospital. We could see the smoke, and we got in the dinghy and were riding back, just watching the boat burn. We got to our buddy's boat, Valexi, and just sat on their boat watching it burn, and they comforted us in such an amazing way. If you ever run into Valexi, they're just amazing people out of Canada that are friends of ours for life. But yeah, so they comforted the best way they could. And there really wasn't much anybody else can do, honestly. We did get interrogated by the police, which I understand is kind of standard protocol. And we met some amazing, amazing Bahamian people that came out of nowhere to assist in any way that they could. And so, not that you ever wish an accident on anybody, but the Bahamian people are just amazing, amazing people, and stepped up in so many different ways to help out somebody they didn't even have to. So, and honestly, we were kind of lost from there. I had to get medicine that, frankly, I need to stay alive, and so the pharmacist actually, I think his wife did, but reached out to us and, was like, do you need anything? And that was a pretty common thing. It's just people were reaching out. Christopher, one of the first sailors that got on the boat and really took charge of everything, he came with a suitcase, of clothes for everybody, that he went around to the different boats and got clothes for us. And yeah, so it was just this amazing outpouring of love, and we just felt so blessed in that moment, which is kind of, I know, crazy to say for some people that you just had this big loss, but yeah, we just felt amazingly blessed. And we rely a lot on our faith, and to get us through some tough times like we have in the past, and our faith has held us up, and it's going to, and had held us up there as well. And that's the only answer I have when people ask us, like, how do you keep a smile on your face through all of this? And that's it.
I remember how you told me that life may not be easy, and everything that I need you've already given me. I remember how you told me I can trust you completely. So why am I doubting when you prove that you'd fight for me? You've walked me through fires, pulled me from flames. If you're in this with me, I won't be afraid. When the smoke billows higher, oh, and higher, and it feels like I can barely breathe, I'll walk through these fires, 'cause you're walking with me. I'm changed by your mercy, covered by your peace. I'm living out the victory.
Hey everyone. Just thought I'd try to give a bit of an update. I sent something yesterday, but just wanted everybody to see our faces, and my face anyways. And just thank you so much for the thousands of emails, phone calls, texts, comments on social media from around the world, from people we didn't know to distant friends to very, very close friends to our family. Everyone has been just so compassionate and amazing, and so thank you for that. A lot of questions about in a kind way, of course, but what are we going to do next? And honestly, I'll say this. We absolutely want to get back out there. But I say all that to say, Leda reached out today and said, the Bahamas and Exumas in Georgetown hold a dear place in her heart as well, because she lost her husband to drowning there just last year in the same area that we lost our boat. And talk about perspective, right? Nothing we lost, nothing, including the dogs, and you'll understand, right? Compares to that, and that just makes me understand how blessed we are sometimes, even through all this tragedy for us, that there are others out there that suffer far more loss than we do. If losing the dogs and the boat wasn't bad enough, there were some really tough days ahead. We ended up having to salvage the boat in order for the fire inspector to come down for insurance purposes. We found a guy named Roston who is amazing and helped us get the boat salvaged in a reasonable amount of time. You can see here in the pictures it being raised up and being towed to a shoreline so that we could get a crane in there to get it lifted up on the hard so that the fire inspectors could do their thing. I actually went down with the fire inspector to look for some personal items while he did his thing. It was probably, outside of the fire and losing the dogs themselves, this was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Hey everyone, it is midnight in Denver at the airport. I'm headed to the Bahamas to meet the fire inspector down there, and we got the boat pulled out of the water a couple of weeks ago, and now we're going to go down there. He's obviously looking for the cause of the fire. I'm actually looking for some personal effects that are super important to us, and hopefully I will find those things, but appreciate your prayers. This is not going to be an easy trip, to see the boats, to see all the stuff that we lost. I'm nervous about what we may find, and so we'll leave it at that. But again, just wanted to give a quick update, and we'll talk soon. Bye. I just had a moment with the dogs. Said goodbye to them. It was as hard as I thought it was going to be, honestly.
See my hands and look at my feet. It's okay if it's hard to believe. I have faith that you will do greater things. It's my time to go, but before I leave, go tell the world about me. I was dead, but now I live. I've gotta go now for a little while, but goodbye is not the end. Don't forget the things that I taught you. I've conquered death and I hold the keys. Where I go, you'll go too someday. But there's much to do here before you leave. So